a hidden habit that is making you, especially if you're a woman in leadership, sound really junior. And that can just be almost a career killer and a stopper. So, what I wanted to get into today is part of the series. I did yesterday. We started with the first video. So if you want a link to that, I can share that with you as well. But today we're going to talk about what is this habit, and this is what you're doing in terms of communication that is actually just letting all of the authority or credibility that you have kind of just wash away. And while you might be finding yourself in a meeting, and I know I've been there, that you have shared a fantastic idea, you have given, and you had all the research done, et cetera, nobody responded. People talked over you, they interrupted you. But then when your male colleague shared the same idea or a very similar idea, not 10 minutes later, it was the best thing since sliced bread. And you're like, what just happened? How did this happen to me again? So what this habit is, because we're just going to dive straight into it, is the habit of over-explaining. And I see this so often. I still get to catch myself on it because I love to give all the details and make sure that everybody has enough information. Except what that does in a corporate setting, especially when you're working with leadership, senior leadership, and executives, is that over-explaining doesn't come across as you being knowledgeable. It comes across as you're too much in the weeds. It comes across as, they've kind of, you've lost them before you get to the punchline. And that means that you're not quite as credible as you really should be taken as. So I wanted to go through this, and as I said, it's something that I have done in the past. I still catch myself, partly because I want to give you, and especially if you're watching this live, I want to give you as much as I can in order to make sure that you can apply everything that you get. But here's the thing. If I keep giving more context, if I keep giving more explaining more of my thinking, if I show more data, that doesn't necessarily translate into, oh, you understand, or you'll trust me, or you finally will see me as strategic. Your leaders are no different. Your leaders are wanting, like, let's get to the point. I want to know what the decisions I need to make, rather than getting overwhelmed and in the weeds with all the data, with all these situations, etc. So the reality, what you're finding yourself in, and I truly get it, because we've been taught to be very thorough and we need to be considerate. And of course, as women in leadership roles in corporate, we are finding ourselves having to work harder, longer to get half the recognition. So it's really frustrating when this happens. So when it comes to over-explaining, you want to just cut to the chase. So here's something that I also want you to consider. So when you are in a meeting and you are watching how other people communicate and who's effective and who's not, when you see senior leaders, and especially men, they don't really lead with uncertainty, or they don't really lead with any uncertainty at all, right? There's a lot of women, and this is a phenomenon, and there is some really good perspective that it is just a made-up phenomenon, imposter syndrome. I'm not saying that you don't feel like an imposter, but it is something that has been created in order to allow to, again, facilitate the feeling that women are inferior. But how often have you been in a meeting where all of a sudden someone is sharing an idea, but they're just very exuberant, they're very extroverted, and everyone's like, yeah, that must be really good. It's because they are super confident, and you might be going in there like, hold on a minute, that doesn't really make sense. That's not a good idea. But because they are so certain of themselves, everybody else follows them along. There's also a part of this when you are in this over-explaining mode, trying to almost convince somebody that you have the knowledge, or you're proving to somebody else that you are capable of giving, of leading, of having strategic ideas, having that vision. What you're not doing, and this is in the 4 steps I'm going to give you just after this, is leading with the conclusion and sounding decisive while you do it. So when you explain too much, when you give too much information, too much detail, too much context, it is almost like you're giving the other person firepower, let's put it that way, to doubt you, for to like, okay, I can poke holes in this because you've given them so much that even one thing can start to like niggle away and make that seem like, oh, well, see, if this assumption is a little bit off, then the rest of it must fall down. So that what I wanted to share today, again, is this hidden shift, right? Is this hidden habit that we're doing of giving too much explanation. So what do we want to do? You want to really start with the outcome. Start with the outcome, the result, or what your recommendation is. That's where we're going to start with, because you want to make sure that when you're opening up with that, people start to go, oh, hey, that's really interesting. And this is what I was one of the questions that came up in my coaching call in the last week. So this is not in the health field at all, but think of it in a sense of, right at this, especially at the end of the year, we see all these lovely advertisements for get healthy, lose 10 pounds by Christmas, all that stuff, right? But if I was to go and tell you and say, listen, in order for you to lose, so I need you to start eliminating your calories. I need you to start exercising more. And we found out that because you're sitting at your desk too much, you're not in the movement, blah, 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 blah. And you keep giving more context before you finally get to the end of it. So my recommendation is that we need to start taking these actions in order for you to lose 10 pounds. You'll likely have lost that person before you've even gotten there. Now, what if you were to turn this around? You start with, you want to lose 10 pounds by Christmas? Here's my suggestion, right? And you don't want to keep it in terms of like going all into the nitty gritty, because that just loses people off. But it's like, I have the suggestion of like, you want to lose 10 pounds by Christmas? Fantastic. I know how I've got a system that works that all of my clients have been able to use that have I don't want to guarantee results, but that has got like 90% of the people have gotten these types of results. And all you need to do is follow this really simple system. All of a sudden, people are like, oh, okay, well, this sounds really, sounds like I can do it. It sounds more attractive. Another way to think of it is, and I pulled a whole bunch of so I've got bookshelves behind me. It's just pulled some books. Now, why did I pull books? Because if you look at a book, how do you decide which book you're going to read? Right? This one, Profit First. Hey, for some of you, you might be like, yeah, that's the book I want to get. For some of you, if you just started a new role, this one, the first 90 days, that all of a sudden just hooks you in. And that is the recommendation that you want. So that you're like, yes, I want that. And underneath it says proven strategies for getting up. Getting up to speed faster and smarter. Okay, you've got me already without having to go into all of the detail of I think it's a 260 page book, right? If I was to tell you all the things in the 260 pages, you would probably have glazed over. So step one is lead with a recommendation. Essentially open with the conclusion. Don't give a whole bunch of context and background. Step two is really speaking with certainty of that this is the right thing. So that is where also within the boardroom whisper technique within my accelerator, my clients really get to we go into the nitty gritty, because things like, well, I think, or maybe, well, just think about this one, or if I could make a suggestion, all of that, even though you think, hey, this is helping me soften my language, what it's also doing is really communicating very strongly that you're not certain, you're not very confident about this. So we want to replace that with much more decisive language. Now, to get you started on that, my best recommendation is comment checklist, and I will send you the first piece of that, which is going to show you how you can start implementing the boardroom whisper technique with my checklist. Step 3, you can at this point give a little more context around the recommendation so that it becomes clear as to, okay, here's what needs to happen. Here's what well, look at what the context is of important of it, right? So if I would open up at the conclusion of, for example, of like, here's my plan in order to increase the Q1 sales by 25%. Now, I'm going to speak with certainty of not around like, well, I think I've got an idea or maybe this could work. No, it's just like, here's my plan to increase sales by 25% in quarter one. Then comes a context. This could be things like, we all know quarter one is a slow month because it's winter. That means there's less people going outside. So we want to make sure, blah, 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 blah. Now, depending on the product, I haven't picked one here, but you can give some context. Again, I really want you to ask yourself, is this information necessary for the other individual to make the decision? Or am I providing all of the insight, data, situation, context, because I want to feel better and I want to prove that I know my stuff? Because if it's a second, I can tell you, you're over explaining. Then end with a decision. Don't go in and say, oh, well, does this make sense? Did everyone get that? Is right? Because that is going to, again, lead to going, oh, okay, well, she's not really that confident about it. So you could use things like, well, here's what's next. When do you want to move forward? Now, when you start to implement and make these shifts and changes, and again, a really great free resource that I have for you is my Boardroom Whisper checklist. So comment checklist or message me checklist, and I will get that over to you. But once you start implementing these really simple and easy changes, what you will find is that you're going to get taken seriously a lot faster. One of my clients used this and she was pulled into a new project and she was the top of her industry, like top 1% in terms of performance, results, etc. When she was speaking and when she was giving suggestions, people were just kind of like, well, what are you like? We're not listening to you. What's the point of that? And as she started leading more with the conclusions and leading more with, for example, it's like, well, from my experience, this is what, in order to get this result, this is what was needed. Short and sweet, right? But very to the point. All of a sudden, she was looked at like, okay, we need to listen to her. She was taken seriously. People stopped questioning her capabilities, her qualifications, and the things that she was sharing were landing. This is the same that can happen to you. So we want to stick to stick to the outcomes. That's what you're going to start with. Speak with certainty. You've done your homework. If you're anything like the women that I work with, I know you know your context, you know your details, you know your data, you know your business, your people inside and out. Speak with certainty and then only add details that are absolutely necessary in order to get to a decision to move forward, yes or no, and end on that decision. Not in a question, but end in like, okay, when do you want to move forward? Here's what the next step is. Because then when you're talking in this formation and in this way, you start to sound like the level that you want to be promoted into. And this small, simple shift is going to make a huge difference when it comes to how you're perceived by your leaders, your executives, how you're being seen and taken and gaining the recognition and being taken seriously by your colleagues and your management. Now, we're at the end of December, well, not the end of December. We're 10th of December today. So we're moving into 2026 really quickly. If you want to walk into 2026, communicating at your next level of leadership, then I have got 5 spots open to work with women, the leaders and director, executive levels. So I want you to DM me the word 2026. And we'll come up with, we'll create a customized strategy plan for you. And with that plan, we can look at what it may look like to work together. Or at the very minimum, you have already walked away with an idea of like, here are the things that I need to work on going into 2026. Because if nothing changes, if you choose not to change anything, don't expect any other results in 2026. And I know I've been have gone like, okay, I just got to get through to the end of the year and next year is going to be better. Except nothing magically changes when the calendar changes to the new year. So this is your opportunity. Again, I've only got 5 spots open. So if you want to walk into 2026 communicating as a strong, as a capable, and as a recognized next level leader, then comment the word or DM me the word 2026, and we'll start having a conversation of what that looks like. Now, this is a video series that I'm creating this week and into next week. There's 5 of them I planned. I'm probably going to do a 6th one in there. But I want to walk you through tomorrow in a video all around how to stop overfunctioning, how to stop carrying your team and shift to true team ownership. Shift the true ownership to create an independence in your teams. So stick around, hit the follow button if this is the first time you've watched me and you're here for the first time. Great, welcome. And I want you to, again, follow in tomorrow, and we'll catch you in that video all about how to stop overfunctioning and shift the ownership and create highly independent and accountable teams. Thanks for watching. Any questions, please drop them in the comments. Love to hear them, and we'll talk again.